kind of like a Queen, except it doesn't rhyme. So, we'll start on this side of the room, please, this side of the room. Start fam. So, hold on, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. Bring it back, let's all get up to Mr. Bennett!
Hi. This is the prologue to a much longer work, so I'm not going to talk to you for an hour. It's in rhyme royal, which is a very old medieval rhyme form, verse form, which Chaucer used, and it's called Donjon. Before I start, a quick apology to anyone who notices such quirks. Go trace this poem's genealogy. Ottava rima's simply too much work. From epic stuff like that, I tend to shirk. So, balls to writing all those extra lines. I'll follow Chaucer and his royal rhymes. For royal is my subject, kings and queens, the castles and the keeps that gave them power. Again, before I start to sketch these scenes, I'll say that Donjon's just old French for tower. And so, though while contractions make you glower, my title, which shows Byron due respect, is also etymologically correct. So think of castles, palaces and piers and cloud-capped towers. Yes, I borrow phrases, one's the Walk Boys and one's Shakespeare's. Then see the lonely sentry as he gazes at sun and moon as they go through their phases. He scans horizons, north, west, east and south, and stifling a yawn, covers his mouth. Our hero, sentinel of yore, stands there atop the tower in your mind. And if you all are keen to find out more, I'll tell his story while I try to find the parallels between his life and mine. I'll tell the tale of, just for your enjoyment, the castle where we both once found employment. Our tale begins, as all the best ones should, with humble origins, some tiny shacks, just single-story dwellings made of wood. Men work out in the fields, sun on their backs, then wander home at dusk down timeless tracks to Norwich. Yes, our hamlet has a name. We're always peaceful till the Normans came. You probably can guess what year it is, 1067, back in history. I'm sure that you all know what fear there is. Perhaps some salient details of this story are lost to legend, veiled in mystery. Can all the facts contained herein be right, or is the poet simply talking shite? To list my sources would be boring you. Suffice to say, I'm passably well read. There's little point in me standing here assuring you, just trust me, all the facts are in my head. Besides, the main protagonists are dead. And if there's something false and I don't know it, well, that's artistic license. I'm a, you know. So, after Hastings, when the dragon fell, when Harold saw an arrow all his own, the day that every schoolboy knows so well, the day the bastard won the English throne, as Bayer's tapestry has amply shown, as well as writing for the world to see, the winners also do embroidery. So go and look the next time you're in France. Look on that work, you'll see our hero there. The scene before the cavalry advance, there stand 4 Norman archers in a square. The one top left with slightly girlish hair, yes, that's our man. For him I write this lay, by history forgot until today. He's not an evil man, he doesn't kill for pleasure, sport, or somehow even worse, some vague polluted notion of God's will. He's forced to fight, the feudal vassal's curse, to fight and die to fill another's purse. And if you think it's changed for good since then, go speak to Tommy Frank's abandoned man. Look that one up. Thus, following the finger of his lord, he marched on north and west to London town. They built a castle on the Thames, that horde, and William paused to grant himself a crown. And though such ego may well make you frown, the best, so better than all fame and wealth, those special Christmas gifts you give yourself. Then on through Colchester, back up the road the Boudicca trampled years ago with chariots and warriors in woe. She burned the Roman temple there to show that freedom wouldn't brook the status quo. But from a sense of irony or spite, the Normans built a castle on the site. then onward, further onward until Norwich. Of attributes, it had the perfect blend. A place from which to raid and also forage, from which to strike, and better yet defend, located as it is within a bend of mighty, roaring, rushing river Wensum, which is hyperbole and fucking Wensum. So perfect was this little Anglian town, so rich with possibilities for wealth, except the bit Sven Falk bit had burned down, but the Viking way so rarely involves stealth. But William at once claimed it himself and ordered once again, just for defence, a castle built, which is strategic sense. Go read a tale of generals on campaign of Alexander, Caesar, Marlborough, Ney. Whenever they're in enemy terrain, they garrison each fortress on the way. Some march ahead and some are forced to stay. Excepted from this rule is always Sherman, who never garrisoned what he could burn and so torched his way through Georgia to the sea, but that's another story. Back to mine. The point is, generals, generally, when on campaign, will from time to time leave a portion of their troops behind. Most march ahead in search of future glory, some few remain and vanish from the story. I used to feel quite sorry for those guys, denied the chance for glory or for fame, but I was coward. Now I realise that none of them were numbered in the slain of some big battle. Safer to remain and live in peace, ignoring all the ink that spilt on glory, and so our hero thinks. And thus, he's happy when he's told to stay and start construction of a mighty mound once all those Saxon huts are out of the way, and on the top a wooden castle found to dominate the land for miles around. A place where he can live and sleep and eat, and after that long march, can rest his feet. I realise I've used a lot of ands, like how one talks when only 4 or 5. I hope, dear listeners, that you'll understand it's not stylistic choice. I always strive to keep them out and keep the verse alive. Their use is just a nasty quirk, a habit, due consequence of iambic pentameter. So, houses are demolished, nothing kept. Our hero watches Saxons sweat and toil to dig a ditch where yesterday they slept, and raise a mob with the resulting spoil, a peak on which to perch a castle royal. And though I know their pain must have been great, I can't be that precise about the date. I also can't imagine the debasement, to be forced from your home and your possessions and then compelled to build as a replacement the instrument that seals your own oppression. It happens during conquest and recession, but why it happens neither here nor there. Our hero, like a banker, doesn't care. I won't describe in depth this tower's birth. I'm not an architect. I don't know how a castle's built. Read Pillars of the Earth through that awful book you've time to plough. Admittedly, I gave up, but for now, assume I'm not a fan of Mr. Follett. I only wish I had his chunky wallet. I'm sure you know, because everybody knows, his book's about constructing a cathedral, which he describes at length. Although his prose, which should set readers soaring like an eagle, instead awaken in me something evil. But since my muse is always one of levity, I'll skip this rant and, for the sake of brevity, move on and trip some 50 years or so. Amazing how the poet can with ease make years and generations swiftly flow across the page like ashes on the breeze with just a flick of pen whenever he please. And though it is a nifty little trick, he can't make his own youth come back so quick. 1121 is now the year. The keep is scraping sky at fullest height. The ashlar ramparts looming, lofty, sheer. The calm stone gleaming, coruscating white. And now, as if to complement the sight of this new palace, perfect and pristine, a drift of snow is settling on the scene. December is the cruelest month by far, no matter what you've heard or read. The ineffectual rays of some weak star slide feebly over land that's all but dead and organ naught the days of dearth ahead. Imagine all that snow and rain and sleet without the benefit of central heat. And so our hero shivers at his post, despite the gambeson and coat of mail. The wind ships in from off the eastern coast as banners crack and billow like the sail of some wracked longboat from a Viking tale. But look, on the horizon, there, yes, coaches. A long-awaited visitor approaches. You see, today's a special day at Norwich Castle. Excitement fights with pride inside each breast. Today, the years of all that building hassle, the years of work today are put to test, as on up the road arrives the honoured guest to cut the ribbon on this shining tower, the mighty King of England and his power. Now, monarchy's a sticky thing to raise, for as an Englishman I'm bred to shower with love, respect and even praise whoever wears the crown upon their head, because their blood is blue and mine is red. But once I read this book by Thomas Paine, which kind of made me doubt their right to reign. Since that and I are clearly tricky subjects, and since that's about 10 minutes I've been reading, I'll pause our story there, if no one objects, so you can smoke that cigarette you're leading. The next instalment of this tale I'll bring another time, when we can talk of kings and how our hero joins that royal feast. Till then, I'll thank you for your patience, friends, and leave that lonely castle in the east. This poem is now, as it comes to its end, by far the longest thing I've ever penned. And now the stanza's number 31, I think it's time to say this canto's done.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr.